Dave pulls into a residential street, realizes it's a dead end, and starts the U-turn. The curb is closer than he thought. He looks at it, the bike drifts towards it, he tightens the turn, closes the throttle, and the front end starts to wash out. He puts a foot down, barely saves it, heart rate about 180. The frustrating part is he's been riding for 8 years. U-turns are not a beginner problem. They catch experienced riders because the technique that works at highway speed completely fails you at 5 miles an hour, and most riders have never been told why. That's what this is about. Let's start with what's actually happening when a U-turn goes wrong, because it's not what most riders think. At highway speeds, the gyroscopic effect of your wheels keeps the bike stable. The faster you go, the more the bike wants to stay upright on its own. At 5 to 10 miles per hour, doing a tight U-turn in a parking lot or on a residential street, that gyroscopic effect is nearly gone. You're balancing the bike the way you'd balance it standing almost still, with small steering inputs, body weight, and throttle management. And your brain, conditioned from years of highway riding, keeps trying to apply speed-appropriate instincts to a slow speed problem. That mismatch is where the trouble starts. Most riders never deliberately practice low-speed maneuvering. They rack up miles on the highway and assume skill is transferable. It mostly is, but the slow speed inputs that keep a motorcycle stable at 5 miles an hour in a tight arc are not the same inputs that keep a motorcycle stable at 65 miles an hour in a sweeping curve. They're different physical problems with different solutions. When nobody tells you that, you assume the U-turn difficulty is about you. It isn't. It's about a technique gap. Here's the biggest one: target fixation on the wrong target. When the curb or the edge of the road comes into your field of vision during a U-turn, your eyes lock into it. Your brain processes it like a threat. And because the bike goes where you look, it starts heading directly for the thing you're trying to avoid. This happens to experienced riders with thousands of miles on them. It's not a beginner failure. It's how human visual processing works under mild stress, and it takes a specific fix to override. The fix is actually counterintuitive, which is why it doesn't come naturally. Look through the turn. From the moment you initiate the U-turn, pick a target on the far side, your exit point, the spot where you want to end up. Lock your eyes there. Don't track the curb. Don't look at the ground. Don't monitor the bike's lean angle. Look at where you're going. Your body and your hands will orient to that target automatically, and the curb stops being a problem because you stop giving it your attention. Most riders who try this for the first time say the same thing. They didn't realize how hard they've been fighting the bike because they were aiming at the problem the entire time. One adjustment to where their eyes go, and the turn becomes immediately easier. Let's talk body position, because the right visual target still needs the right mechanical inputs underneath it. Weight on the outside foot peg. If you're turning left, your weight goes into the right foot peg. This counterweights the lean and keeps the bike more upright relative to the direction you're turning. It also gives you a stable platform to work from throughout the turn. Riders who keep their weight neutral or loaded on the inside peg are making the balance problem harder without even knowing it. Light rear brake drag. Not a stop, not a squeeze, a controlled drag, just enough to govern your speed and keep it steady throughout the arc. The rear brake is your speed controller in a slow speed turn. A small amount of brake drag keeps the rear wheel from wandering and keeps your speed consistent without allowing the bike to run away from you or decelerate unevenly. Learn to modulate this lightly and you gain a huge amount of control over what the bike is doing. Steady throttle, and here's the piece that gets riders every time. The instinct when a U-turn starts to feel unstable is to close the throttle. That's exactly backwards. A small amount of throttle, barely off idle, creates a stabilizing tension through the drivetrain as it works against the light rear brake drag. That tension makes the bike more cooperative, not less. When you close the throttle completely, that tension disappears, the engine load drops off suddenly, and the balance point becomes much harder to hold in the middle of a tight arc. Keep a tiny, consistent throttle input throughout the turn. It feels wrong the first few times, it becomes automatic quickly. The combination of these three inputs together is what makes a U-turn smooth. Eyes on the exit, weight in the outside peg, light brake drag, steady throttle. Remove any one of them and the turn gets harder. Put all three together and the bike does most of the work. Here's the drill that actually builds this. Find an empty parking lot. Pick two painted lines about 18 to 20 feet apart or mark two spots with chalk. Practice slow figure eights between them, full lock turns in both directions as slowly as you can. Don't rush. The goal isn't to go fast. It's to make tight, controlled, slow arcs until your inputs are automatic. 20 minutes of this in a parking lot is worth more than 20,000 highway miles for building slow speed control. Highway miles develop one set of skills. Parking lot figure eights develop an entirely different set, and most riders never touch them after their license test. The carryover from this drill goes beyond U-turns. Any slow speed maneuver gets easier. Pulling into a tight parking spot, lane splitting and stop traffic, navigating a gravel driveway, exiting a gas station with a curb cut. All of it runs on the same low speed balance inputs you're building in the parking lot. Skip the drill and you're always slightly behind on those situations. Put the time in and they'll stop being situations at all. I want to know where you're at with this. Is the U-turn something you actively avoid on routes you ride? Have you figured out a specific piece of this that worked for you? Tell me in the comments. I'll read them. And if enough of you are fighting the same specific part of this, that's probably a follow-up video worth doing. Dave, who nearly put his bike down in that residential dead end, went and spent 20 minutes in a parking lot the next weekend. He told me the figure eight drill felt embarrassing for the first 5 minutes and automatic by the end of it. He hasn't had another close call on a U-turn since. That's how fast this builds when you actually practice it. I've seen riders in my office with road rash and a broken collarbone from a tip over that started as a routine U-turn in a parking lot at 5 miles an hour. The injury pattern looks the same regardless of speed. A fall is a fall. The asphalt doesn't care how fast you are going when you hit it. The technique matters. And more importantly, it's fixable. One more thing on this topic, and it comes up more than you would expect. If you drop your bike in a U-turn because of a road surface condition, loose gravel, fresh patchwork that wasn't sealed properly, an oil slick near the entrance to a parking lot, that may not be entirely your fault legally. Municipal liability and property owner liability extend to road surface conditions that create unreasonable hazards for vehicles using that road. I've handled cases that started as what the rider assumed was their own mistake and turned out to involve a documented surface condition that the responsible party knew about or should have known about. If the road played a role in the drop, it's worth a conversation before you close the book on it. If this was useful, I got a video covering road surface hazards and how to read them before they become a problem under your tires. For anyone working on slow speed riding, it connects directly to what we just talked about. The link is above. And if you've been in a situation where the road itself caused a crash, the contact information is in the description. Now, tell me, is the U-turn something you're actively working around, or have you cracked it? Leave it in the comments.